Hey everybody, today's October 5th, and today we're going to look at the price of Bitcoin. And right now Bitcoin has broken 50,000 again and is making a strong surge up to our previous resistance level, short-term resistance level around 53,000 that was set in early September before we had this huge flash crash. And of course another crash due to China banning cryptocurrency transactions. And there's just it's been a lot of FUD in the last few weeks of September. And right now, Bitcoin has made a strong recovery. And we've basically been going sideways this entire year, right? We had a strong surge late last year, and it took us all the way up to 65,000 in April. But of course, we had two big catalysts that tanked the price of Bitcoin, right? First was, of course, Elon Musk suspending Tesla, suspending Bitcoin payments as payment for Tesla cars, which he allowed in early in February of 2021, which was this big move higher. And when he suspended that, we had a big move down. And of course, this big move down again, and the second move down was due to China banning mining in China and for Bitcoin miners, right? And so a lot of those Bitcoin miners ended up relocating to other places around the world and setting up shop. And so Bitcoin basically has been bouncing around 30,000, trying to and successfully turning this into support level, right? We actually first had our support level tested around 30,000 back earlier this year, which was our first correction, right? 30,000 held here, and it held again over here. And this is very important because we have these lines are Fibonacci lines, right? These Fibonacci lines tend to act as support and resistance levels, which is why we like to use this in our technical analysis to help us find places where we can enter or exit the market if we're doing some short-term trading. Also, another thing that's important are these moving averages, these silver and gold lines and blue lines, right? Silver line is 50-day moving average. The gold line is the 100-day moving average, and the blue line is the 200-day moving average, right? These are our short, medium, and long-term moving averages, and these help us to these give us guidance in determining the direction of the trend, right, in the bigger picture. And if these lines are important because if we look at previous cycles in Bitcoin, for example, from the last bull cycle from late 2015 to late 2017, right? The price of Bitcoin stayed above these lines, and we had a bullish posture of the 50 above the 100 and the 100 above the 200-day, right? Silver above gold above blue. And so it's important to see that even though we had corrections in 2017, we never broke below the blue line, right? So what was concerning about this year is that when we peaked in April, just under 65,000, the price of Bitcoin actually plunged below the blue line, right? And that really put the uptrend, the bull market, in jeopardy. But Bitcoin fought, and it fought hard to hold 30,000 and to reclaim this Fibonacci level. So we actually held support here once, twice, but third time we broke, right? So when the price of Bitcoin fell below 47,000, this Fibonacci support level turned into resistance. So we had a hard time breaking above in the last few months, right? From August to now, in early October, we've been basically flip-flopping between above and below this resistance level. And actually, I've been saying that actually I made some videos right around here when I basically said Bitcoin was going to go up here. We were going to face some resistance. We were either going to break strongly, come down, test as support, hold, and go up higher, or I thought we were going to go sideways. And my conclusion was that I believe that we were going to go sideways, and that ended up happening for a while now. But I did not expect this flash crash and of course the China banning Bitcoin again, because I thought, like, China, they've been banning Bitcoin like a million times, right? And I figured that the market would be pretty resilient to it, but it does seem like China is banning what may seem, and hopefully is, like the last time they can really ban anything, right? They banned mining, and they're trying to ban transactions now, and hopefully that's going to be the last time we have any FUD out of China that could affect the price in a negative manner. And so Bitcoin has been recovering very strongly, surging not only above our Fibonacci resistance level and trying to flip it into support, right? Trying to flip it to a support like we had here and here earlier this year. Because once we cultivate and turn this price action, which is about 2.5 months into support, that's going to give us a strong base to try to attack the previous all-time high again around 65,000. And once we break that all-time high, which is basically this next Fibonacci resistance line, right? Once we break this all-time high, I think that 100,000 is on the table, and is likely to happen by the end of this year, right? Bitcoin tends to have a history of performing very well in the last 3 months of the year in a bull cycle, right? For example, in 2017, October, November, December, Bitcoin surged dramatically. Same thing in 2013, which was the one that I was a part of, the first Bitcoin cycle that was part of 2013, 2017, and now 2020. 4-year cycles, 4 years apart. It does seem like Bitcoin is finally going to take on 100,000 after so many so many times where I thought Bitcoin was finally going to hold 50,000. It broke down again, and thankfully my positions personally are fine, but it's been kind of boring over the last couple of weeks because Bitcoin again trying to hold about 50,000, but finally we reclaimed 50,000, and it seems like there's strong price action to hopefully push the price even higher and finally retest 65,000 as we've been waiting for the past few months, right? There's still 3 months left out of the year, and again, like I just showed you, Bitcoin tends to perform very well in the last 3 months, so very optimistic looking forward towards the end of the year, and I do believe Bitcoin will break 65,000 hopefully by the end of this month and just continue up higher. And when we break 100,000, I do believe there's going to be a lot of FOMO from retailers, general people who aren't necessarily trading crypto like we did in 2017 and 2013, right? And that's going to cause a huge parabolic move higher, and we can see Bitcoin perhaps hit way above 100,000, maybe 200,000, maybe even 300,000. Who knows? We're definitely going to have to update you guys as the price action develops going forward. But let's just stick with the technicals now, and we'll dive into fundamentals later on in this video. So technicals are looking very good right now, right? Obviously, we've been sideways for the entire year, but Bitcoin is trying to cultivate support right here. Like I just said, around 50,000 before pushing up higher and attacking the 65,000 previous all-time high. Our oscillators are finally crossing positive again, right? We had some promise over here in August, but obviously that was rejected. But right now the MACD is looking very strong. We're about to cross into positive territory with these strong print on the histogram bars, right? Escalating green histogram bars that are getting bigger in magnitude. So that's a lot of buying support coming in, and hopefully that momentum can continue up going higher. RSI, our other momentum indicator, is hopefully going to break this downtrend, right, and push up higher into a more bullish posture, which generally speaking, when Bitcoin is in a strong uptrend, it tends to hang around the 30 to 90 RSI zone, right? Keep in mind that in a strong bull market, even though that technically is oversold on the RSI, Bitcoin can ride oversold signals for a while in a bull market, right? It's not necessarily time to sell immediately. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that was really concerning to me that I talked about multiple times was a potential bearish pattern happening, right? I said, and this is back in June, I talked about how Bitcoin generally will signal a bear market on the weekly chart, right? This weekly chart, when it hits the 50-day, which is the silver line, the 50-week moving average, bounces up and then finally breaks below the 50-week moving average, the silver line. It generally will continue down lower into a bear market. This is 2014, this is 2018, right? Following the parabolic moves, right? And I do believe something like this is going to happen in next year, 2022, bear market. But this is 2021, right? This is probably going to continue up higher before we have a scenario like this. But what was concerning is that we had something similar we had a potential setup for a bear market, and earlier this year. And so this is obviously back in June. So let's see how it's played out so far, right? Obviously, we've seen. Let me just get a clean chart for you guys. So that picture was. The screenshot was taken around over here, right? And I said that this looked very concerning because it seemed very similar to a pattern. If we had broken below the silver line, then we probably would have been a confirmed downtrend into a bear market, like over here, right? If we had a bounce on the weekly, if we continue down lower, it's a bear market, right? Same thing in 2013, right? Bounce here, try to reclaim higher, but finally break below into a bear market. So that was concerning to me in the last few weeks because we were seeing very similar price action on the weekly chart, right? Over here, that's 2018, and also over here. But the fact that we're having a strong breakout in the last 2 weeks, and we've managed to stay above the silver line. We didn't even touch the line or even go below, which is really good. And now we're having a strong breakout. So it's definitely invalidating a potential bearish scenario that I've been worried about in the last couple of videos. So instead of looking like this, it does seem like it's going to look something like perhaps like mid 2013, right? And interestingly, this timeline in 2013, before we had this big breakout, is also in October October and November was this huge parabolic move, right? So I do think something similar is setting up right now. Obviously, we're in October now, so if Bitcoin does break 65,000 and eventually 100,000, I think 100,000 is going to be a strong psychological number that's going to just really get the bulls optimistic and putting more buying pressure, right, on the bears. So, and also the monthly chart looking very good right now, right? I said something similar in the past videos how this price action is looking very similar to 2013 as well, right? We had 6 consecutive green candles over here, 6 consecutive green candles over here, followed by a mid-cycle correction and a final blow-off top by the end of the year, right? So we also had a 6 consecutive green candles followed by a mid-cycle correction, basically right. That's been happening in the middle of this year, and now we're entering fall of this year. And I do believe we will see a huge parabolic move higher above 100,000. Where the top will be, I don't really know. We're going to have to update you as the price action develops going forward, but I do suspect it will be somewhere around 200,000 or 300,000, maybe even more if people get really excited, right? Because I do think that 100,000 is a strong psychological number and it's going to cause massive FOMO. So now that we got the technicals out of the way, let's look at some of the fundamentals, right? Hash rate, very important. Why? Because hash rate, April 14th, right? This was the peak of the hash rate. Also, April 14th was the peak of this, was the Bitcoin's peak price, right? 65,000, just under 65,000. So the fact that the hash rate is recovering now, that is going to give more support to the price of Bitcoin to recover, right? Because hash rate is important. The more hash rate there is, the more secure the network is, the stronger Bitcoin will be, right? So that is good. Fear and greed index is finally getting into greed territory after staying in fear for a while now. And this is really important because in a strong bull market, or when the market is going up higher over a sustained period of time, we do want to see the fear and greed at an elevated level. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have the fear and greed level at an elevated level, as long as the price is supported and strong and it continues up higher, right? And that will give us, and right now, we did see last year we had this strong move over here. And you can see that the fear and greed index was at elevated levels for a while, right? So it's possibly it's completely normal for the price, for the fear and greed to be at an elevated level for a long time during a strong surge higher. And the fact that we're not even at this level yet, right? We're at 59, so there's still a lot of room. So there's still a lot of upside. So nowhere near overbought on the fear and greed index. Still a lot of upside, guys. Now let's look at our other indicators, charts, and models. 2-year multiplier, right, tells us that Bitcoin is oversold and to take profits when we go above this orange line into the shaded area, and to buy that when we're oversold in the green area. So we basically been going side. We haven't even broken above the orange line. We got here and we had this massive mid-cycle correction pullback, 55%, right? But we basically been going sideways. And as Bitcoin continues to go sideways, the upper boundary of this model continues to go up higher, giving us a potentially higher exit signal, right? Obviously, this line is above 117,000, but by the time the price reaches it, this upper boundary is going to be a lot higher. And not only that, but this chart tends to it shows that that Bitcoin has a history of overshooting this boundary. So the exit price that this model tells us to exit at, when it flashes a exit signal, is probably going to be a lot higher, right? Maybe 200,000, 300,000. Who knows? We'll definitely need to update you as this model, as the price gets closer to the orange line, right? So still a lot of upside. Still a lot of upside. Pi cycle top indicator. Pi cycle top indicator tells us to exit when the green line. Sorry, the orange line crosses above the green line, right? And it signals this dotted line to tell us the signal. So we had something very similar earlier this year. But keep in mind, in 2013, we had 2 crosses, right? Coincidentally, around the same time that we had this year, right? April. Same thing here, April. So the question is, are we going to have another cross later this year, maybe in November or December, right? So I do think that as long as Bitcoin stays above this orange line, which it is, we should still, this will likely be a mid-cycle correction rather than a bear market, because in the previous bear markets, the price wasn't able to stay above the orange line. It tried to, but it kept going down lower. Same thing over here, right? It actually broke above, but then it fell down lower. So the fact that Bitcoin, it actually almost fell below a couple days ago, but we actually held. So this is very bullish. As long as we hold above this orange line, we don't break below it, the probability of Bitcoin being in a mid-cycle correction and it can go up a lot higher, rather than it being in a bear market that will go lower, the probability of it going higher is a lot higher now, right? So at the end of the year, we might see a huge move above this green line and above a lot higher. And this This indicator has been very accurate, right? It perfectly called a exit signal here in April, right? Before the before the crash of 55% pullback due to China and Tesla bans, or sorry, the Tesla suspension and China mining bans. And so I will be using this indicator to time my exit later this year, or whenever it tells me to exit. Pull multiplier tells us that Bitcoin is oversold and to sell when the price of Bitcoin is in this orange shaded area, this reddish shaded area tells us it is overbought. And right now, Bitcoin is in neutral territory. Actually, we at the depth of this pullback, mid-cycle pullback correction, we actually saw Bitcoin this model signal oversold. So there's still a lot of upside, right? There's nothing about these models, these charts so far that is telling us that Bitcoin is overbought or anything. And there's still a lot of room to the upside left. Logarithmic growth curve is showing that Bitcoin tends to signal an exit signal when Bitcoin hits the upper boundary, right? And this model has not even hasn't even touched the upper boundary yet. There's still a lot. If we zoom in here, there's still a lot of upside, right? This model is telling us that Bitcoin will likely top out somewhere around 150,000. Who knows? You know, this is not every model is accurate, but it is telling us that Bitcoin will go over 100,000. So there's still, even if it does go below what I believe it will, or top out lower than I believe it will, I do believe Bitcoin will top out over 200,000. But this is saying that Bitcoin's going to top out at 150,000, and that could be accurate. But the point is that there's still a lot of upside from now until 150,000, right? And this is telling us how much is deviating from this model, and you can see that a good exit signal is when this red line, this deviation line, is near the peak, near 1, right? And we're not even near 1 yet. We're in the middle. We're in neutral territory. We're actually right now below 50, right? So there's still a lot of upside according to this logarithmic growth model. Z-score, right, tells us to exit when we see a spike up into this reddish shaded area, right? And we haven't penetrated that area yet. So this is likely telling us that Bitcoin has not reached a overbought territory yet, that there's still a lot of upside, that this is likely a mid-cycle correction, right? Lastly, stock to flow model tells us that the price of Bitcoin should be around where this maroon red line is, right? And this line down here is telling us how much the price of Bitcoin is deviating from this model, right? And right now we're seeing very similar deviation that we saw right before the huge move in late 2017, right? So according to this model, Bitcoin should break above the reddish maroon line, and not only that break above, but overshoot like we did in 2017 and 2013, overshoot and eventually come down and stabilize around the maroon line, right? Which is right in this model is around 80,000. So if we do overshoot, we should see Bitcoin go up well into the 200,000, 300,000 range. You know, who knows? It can go up really high, a lot higher than most people expect, right? So the point I'm trying to make, I guess, is that all of these models is telling us that Bitcoin is nowhere near overbought, right? If anything, it's in neutral territory as for now, and there's still a lot of upside, right? Well above 100,000, as I believe it will hit by the end of this year. And Bitcoin right now, very strong, right? Very strong move higher after breaking 50,000 for like the millionth time. Hopefully this is the last time we test 50,000, and hopefully we hold 50,000 instead of going down below. Because I think that the more we break below 50,000, the higher the probability that Bitcoin will go down lower, right? But for now, like I said, with all the momentum, the news, the price action, especially the weekly invalidation of our bear scenario, right? Instead of the weekly chart looking like this, breaking below the 50-week, the silver line, and continuing on lower, finally holding and pushing up potentially higher to hopefully reclaim, sorry, this is a little too late, to retest and reclaim the all-time high around 65,000 and continue up higher, well above $100,000 by the end of this year. And yeah, so what I want to see Bitcoin do in the short term, or within this month at least, is obviously break above our short-term resistance level around 53,000 over here, right before our flash crash in early September. Once we break above here, I think that we'll be in the clear to go and try to retest and reclaim the previous all-time high around $65,000 that was set back in April of this year. Once we break that, we'll definitely be smooth sailing. Well, not necessarily smooth sailing, but I think there'll be a strong FOMO up to at least 80,000. I think 80,000 will likely be our next resistance level, and of course 100,000. Once we hit $100,000, that's going to be major resistance. That's going to be all over the news, right? If Bitcoin is able to break 100,000, I think that we're going to see massive FOMO, and we might even see Bitcoin double within a day. You know, I mean, that's not when Bitcoin is going parabolic. You never know how fast it can go. It can really shock a lot of people, right? Bitcoin can go from like 100,000 to 200,000 in like a week. Like these types of moves aren't out of the norm when it comes to a parabolic bullish movement, right? So right now, Bitcoin is very sleepy. It's been going sideways, but that's generally the best time to buy. Obviously, this is not financial advice. It's entertainment and education. You got to make your own decisions, right? Do what makes sense for you and what you're willing to risk. Only risk what you're willing to lose or you can afford to lose, right? Don't gamble with money you can't afford to lose, and make your own educated decisions, right? But based on everything that I've said so far, that I've said in terms of technical and fundamental analysis, I do think that the probability of Bitcoin going a lot higher into this year, breaking 100,000 and potentially going above 200, 300,000 is a lot higher than it going down lower now, right? I do believe Bitcoin, it's showing me this strong breakout is showing me that Bitcoin is not in a bear market. The bulls want to fight the bears. They want to fight back and they want to fight hard and strong, and they want to take us out of this sideways consolidation, right? And into the next leg higher above $100,000. So hopefully by the end of October, we're going to see Bitcoin challenge the previous all-time high again. And once we break that, it's going to be very exciting. And once we break 100,000, it's going to be even more exciting. But we'll definitely update you guys as the price action develops going forward. And yeah. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful, helpful, informative, please like this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe for updates. I appreciate all your support. Thank you again, and have a great day.